Namo Namaha. Yam pravajantamanapetyamapetya krityam dvaipaino viraha katara ajuhava putreti tammayatayo tirvam vinodustam sarvabhutam hridamanatoshmi bhaktya vihina aparara lakshay shiptascha karmari tarangamadye kripamai tvam sharanam prapana brinde namaste charanarvindam. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarasdara Shishimat Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And the same again, millions of times unto the lotus feet of our most beloved Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarasdara Shishimat Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And all our illustrious Rupanuga Guru Varigya, and all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams to everybody. So now we're into the Dasamula section of this glorious Jaiva-Dharma, and we'll see what jewels it unfolds today. So we're into the middle 6 verses of the Falshruti. This Falshruti is very prophetic in the sense that it maps out very clearly all the different topics that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to unpack. And in the first 6, as we spoke yesterday, it's principally about those deceptive dharmas. That's what he's saying. And now today, Jale Dvaita Jnane Haya Chita Upadaya Krishna Bhakti Chiradina Upaya. Such knowledge, which is solely related to the duality of this dull material world, is fit to be rejected, whereas transcendental knowledge of the divine duality within the spiritual world, Chit Jagat, should be accepted forever within one's heart, both as the upaya, means of attainment, and the upaye, goal worthy of attainment. So the conditioned jiva is in the marginal state. The marginal state goes between material duality and spiritual duality. We oscillate between the two. So our principle is to bring the balance to the spiritual duality and to be purifying this material deluding energy, Maya. We have the key to make the connection with our Guru Parampara, to open and unlock the door. And then the mercy can come from the divine realm. It's a simple process. It's just like ABC. But you have to, first of all, want to give up this world. That's a big consideration. Do we really want to drop all our material attachments? Do we want to give up this material identity? Aren't I very proud of who I am? I've lived with this person since I was born. I know all about him. So we develop great pride in that body of that person. But that has to be purified to actually reach the essence or the consciousness of that person, which is the soul. This Jaiva-Dharma is the eternal function of the soul. This is what is the meaning of this title, Jaiva-Dharma, the function of the soul. What is its dharma? Jiva kabu jadanai, hare kabu nai, hare saha jiva chintya beda mai. The jiva is not a product of dull matter, nor is he Kevaladvaita, absolutely one in all ways with Sri Hari. That's like the paths of karma and moksha. Wanting moksha is like Kevaladvaita, wanting that liberation. And considering my body, this dull matter, to be the essence, that means that I want things for the dull body. That means fruitive activities to gain things for the gross material body. That's the path of karma. So karma and moksha, these two paths we discussed in the chapter 12. This karma and mukti. The jiva is inconceivably different and non-different from Hari. This is Achintya Beda Abeda Tattva. This is the most sublime philosophy. This will be described in chapter 18 when we get there. Very, very beautiful appreciation. Deha kava jiva nai, dara bhogya nai, dasya bhoga jiva Krishna Prabhu bhakta hai. The material body should never be considered to be the jiva, and this earth is not the jiva's to exploit and enjoy. The jiva's swarup is Krishna Das, and thus he is meant for Krishna's enjoyment, whereas Sri Krishna's swarup is Prabhu, master, and bhakta, enjoyer. So this is a question again of Shraddha. Shraddha Shabde Vishvasa Koi Sudrita Nishchoy, this confident, firm faith that I am the spirit soul. We say it 1,000 times, but still the actual connection with that eludes us. We can't grab it because we're not immersed sufficiently in our bhakti, in our Krishna consciousness. It takes time. Actually, it takes lifetimes even to really cultivate this depth of appreciation for my pure identity. It may come in flashes and spasms, but we want to collect all those drops of mercy to make the conception a reality. Jaiva-Dharma Deha Dharma Kata Jiva Jnyan Mayavada Prata. This book, entitled Jaiva-Dharma, neither discusses matters related to the dead material body, nor does it propound the Mayavad doctrine of the jiva's oneness with Brahm. So again, this is the two conceptions of Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. Why is he saying this so many times? Because previously, Vedavyas in the Mahabharata and the Itihasyas and so many of the scriptures, they were just delineating on these two paths. If you ask a general person in India today, what is the purpose of life? They'll probably say straight to you, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. That's what they'll say. That's what your brother would say.
Yes.
He just said immediately like that. That's what the indoctrination is in the land. And Vedavyas has written like that so that people will be interested in reading the scriptures. If it didn't have those purusarthas in the scriptures, people wouldn't read them. If they didn't have the path of mukti, nobody would be reading it. But they think, oh, I will get liberated from that. I'm just now looking at this Ramcharitmanas, and all the way through the path of mukti is being proclaimed as the supreme goal of all the sages and rishis at that time of Lord Ram, because Mahaprabhu had not advented. Krishna had not advented at that time. So appreciate through the ages how the opportunities to come to this state of consciousness where we're actually eligible. We are eligible, otherwise we wouldn't have been born at this particular point in time. If we weren't eligible, why would we be sitting here talking about Mahaprabhu's truths? It's like yesterday Bilba said, is this the condensed instructions of Mahaprabhu? Yes, it is the complete condensed instructions of Mahaprabhu. So this is really, really unique. Never in the history of the day of Lord Brahma, the day and the night, 8,640,000,000 years, have these truths been offered the way they're offered today. It's exceptional. So we should appreciate our great, immense fortune, even though we're in the darkest Kali Yuga ever. But still we have this incredible, extraordinary fortune to hear these truths, which are laced with bhav and are focused on prem. Because without bhav and prem, it's just dry gyan focusing on mukti or karma. It has nothing, it has no juice. It's like a yogi is just going for paramatma realization. This has a great illumination of the consciousness, and perhaps you get some mystic cities and you feel even more important than you already feel. But what is the value? Where is love in the ingredient? The heart is crying for that love. That is the only yeyatma suprasidati. That will give satisfaction to the self if that love is connected with that love. How much does Krishna love us? When we see Lord Jagannath, you can sometimes sense the immensity of his affection for the jivas. And our goal and object is just to reciprocate with him, to think, how can I please him? How can I please him? How can I please the Vaishnavas? How can I please his servants? How can I please his dharma? How can I serve his name? How can I honor Mahaprasad instead of just take? All these thoughts should be constantly moving within us to try and connect with that supreme divine love in service to that love. Not just that love for my order supplier. This is the same as all other religions and philosophies. That's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur was saying all these other dharmas are deceitful, because they're all motivated, they're all based on my selfish desires. So to come away from there just to please, and then what is pleasing to Krishna the most? That anukul sohar, that we said the other day, that Bhagavat Prapti Abhilas, and then Anukul Prapti Abhilas, and then Sohar Prapti Abhilas. These three stages. First of all, acknowledging Krishna, then acknowledging service that is favorable to Krishna, and then making friendship with Krishna. Making friendship in Sakhya Ras or conjugal relationship, but this friendship, this mood of friendship and sweetness with the Lord, where fear has been expelled, because the whole world is moving under a cloud of fear. Everywhere, that verse, Vayam Dvitiya Binibeshitam Syat, Isat Ubatasya Viparayo Shmriti, Tanmayatayo Buddha Abadecham, Bhaktyai Keksham Guru Devatama, that this Bhayam Dvitiya Binibeshitam Syat, fear arises from material absorption. So as we've been saying repeatedly, we have to constantly know clearly in our mind what is material and what is spiritual. It's like we have an inner voice always wanting comfort and wanting the security of this material world. Then we have this outer voice which says, yes, I'm serving Krishna, I'm doing all kinds of things. But inside there's this other sort of identity that needs to be purified simultaneously also. That connection with the soul. Because the soul has given the power of attorney to the mind. And that mind is looking for anything that will bring pleasure to the body if it doesn't recognize the soul sufficiently. Jaiva-Dharma Nahiyache Deya Dharma Kata Nahiyache Jaiva Gyan Mayavada Prata. Did I just read that one?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Jiva Nitya Dharma Bhakti Tahe Jadanaya Shuddha Jiva Prema Seva Phala Payanai Tai. The Jiva's Nitya Dharma is bhakti, devoid of material motivation. It's just what we've just said. That's his Nitya Dharma. And that's the only thing that's going to make him satisfied. The Jiva, purified by seva, attains the fruit of that seva in the form of prem. This is the form of prem. We discussed yesterday about association. Krishna Bhakti Janma Mule Hoya Shadhu Sangha. Krishna Prem Janma, what is it? Janma Tahe Puna Mukhya Anga. Yes, so this Sadhu Sangha is necessary even in the path of Prem. What to speak in the path of bhakti. And this Jaiva-Dharma is demonstrating Sadhu Sangha in every single chapter. And the same as Srimad Bhagavatam. So are we going to believe this? Are we going to take this seriously and give up our own self-conception, abhimans of our identities, being alone and separate from the devotees? We must be in Sangha. We must be in association. And that Swajatya, Snigdha, Ashraya, these three types of association. Swajatya, same mood. They want the same, Braja Prem, Braja Dham. And Swadatya, Snigdha, affectionate. And Ashraya, more senior. So this is the association we're looking for. So, Falshruti Ki Jai. So now we'll come to our verse again. I want to go through this verse quite regularly until everyone becomes very familiar with the 10 ontological truths. So the first is Amnaya. So in the verse, Amnaya Praha. This means the Praman. Amnaya Praha. This is the teachings of the Vedas, etc. The Shruti and the Smriti are headed by the Srimad Bhagavatam, which are going to give the evidence for where we're going to go. We have to have the authenticity, the truth of this platform that we're building here. There has to be the foundation. So this foundation, of course, is the Amnaya. So Amnaya Praha. And then there's the first Prameya is Tattvam Harim Iha Paramam. That's the first Prameya. That Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ete Kamsa Kalapum Sam. Krishna Stu Bhagavan Swayam. This is proclaimed everywhere in the Bhagavatam. Krishna is the supreme. Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo Matahar Sarvam Prabhatante. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagavad Gita proclaims this very clearly. That's the first step, the first appreciation, and the first prameya. Tattvam Harim Iha Paramam. Paramam means topmost, superior, supreme. Harim means Krishna, and Krishna Tattva. So Tattvam Harim Iha Paramam. And then Sarva Shaktim, that the potency and the potent. Krishna has his potency. Krishna is the potent, just like the sun. The sun has its potency. So Krishna is the same. Shakti Tattva, we call it. So this is here. Sarva Shaktiman. That's the second prameya. Then the third is Rasabdin. Rasabdin is getting into Rasa Tattva will take us beautifully into the Leela with some support. If we appreciate the Rasa Tattva and the different types of descriptions of the heroine, for example, the Nagari, and the Abhisarika, and the Kandita, and the Utkandita, and the Swadhina Bhartika, and the Prosita Bhartika, and the Vipralamda, all of these different types of heroines, then we start to appreciate more clearly what it is that the heroine, Sri Radhika, has to endure to have her relationship with Krishna. She goes through this, so much Vipralamba is there, separation on both sides. If we read this beautiful Gita Govinda, Krishna is in separation in one kunj, and Radhika is in separation in another kunj, but they can't meet because of the man that has manifested. But it's very incredibly sweet and pleasant to hear and relish these descriptions of their, because without separation, there can't be union. The union won't be flourishing. It won't be possible. So we understand there's 4 types of separation, 4 types of meeting, and they both correspond with each other. So this is all, this is all explained in the Rasa Tattva section. So this Rasa Tattva is very important to appreciate. So 3 aspects about Krishna. Krishna as the Supreme, Krishna as Shakti Shaktiman, and Krishna Tattva, Rasa Tattva rather. So 3 about Krishna, very simple. And now 3 about the Jiva. So Vibhinamsa, we discussed already, Vibhinamsa, we are a separated part of Krishna. I discussed the other day. There's the Anksi, that's Krishna. Then there's Swa-Angsa, that's all the avatars. And then there's the Vibhinamsa, manifesting from the Swa-Amsas. We don't come directly from Krishna. We come from Baladev Prabhu. It's Baladev Prabhu who's manifesting all the jivas. So we come from there as Vibhinamsa. So Vibhinamsa Tattva is discussed in the 15th chapter. That's like Jiva Tattva direct. And then Cha Jivan Prakriti Kavalitam. Kavalitam means swallowed by that Prakriti, that material energy. Those are the Bada Jivas. So we've had the first one about the Jiva is just a general tattva of the Jiva, Vibhinamsa. Second is the Bada Jiva. And then the third is Vimuktams, Cha Bhavad, those Jivas who have become liberated. They are Vimuk now. And through the practice of Bhav, Chabhav, they have become liberated. So these are the Nitya jivas, nitya jivas. So we got the Bada jivas and then the vimuktas, the liberated jivas. So three types of jiva: Vivinamsa, Bada jiva, and the vimukta jivas in the second line. Then the third line, Beda abeda prakasham sakalam api hare. This inconceivable oneness and difference with Sri Hari. This is the meaning of this. This shakalam, manifestation of Hari. This is his manifestation. Krishna loves us so much that he's giving us independence. And with that independence, we can connect with him in love, just like a child will love the father. The child has his own independence actually from the father. So when the child demonstrates affection to the father feels greatly joyful. If the father was in complete control of the child, in control of his love, there would be no great satisfaction. But when the child demonstrates that love independently, and I gave the example once before, if the father's giving pocket money to the child goes and buys some nice sweater for the father and then presents it to the father hearts melt because he sees that the child independently chose to utilize the resource. It doesn't matter that the father gave to him. Krishna gives us everything. But if we utilize what Krishna is giving us for his pleasure and hear about those things that make him satisfied, this is going to be pleasing. And it's only with our independence that we can do this. So this achintya beda abeda. So we are one yet different from Krishna. It's a very, very profound teaching that only Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought. Mahaprabhu brought this, and he brought the idea of Shakti Parinamvad to our Guru Vargya, rather than Vastu Parinam. Vastu Parinamvad means that Krishna is transforming into this world. Mahaprabhu said, no, it's Shakti that is transforming into this world. So Mahaprabhu brought this gift also. He also brought the gift of explaining Parakiya Ras. So Mahaprabhu is bringing so many gifts that will help us enter Braja Ras, Bhakti Ras. All of these gifts are there for this reason. Previously, these gifts were there, but they weren't brought to the front. They weren't made prominent teachings. The prominent teachings was this Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. And they're very beautiful teachings, and they're very sound and a beautiful platform. But Krishna wanted more. He wanted the jiva to actually relish his pastimes in Vrindavan Dham. These beautiful pastimes of Vrindavan Dham are so exceptional because Krishna is not as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's that unique Dharma where Krishna is subservient, fully subservient to the residents of Vrindavan. Krishna can't even roll over without Mother Yashoda's helping him. Krishna can't do anything. Krishna has to be bound to a mortar by Mother Yashoda. Queen Kunti is astonished. How can Mother Yashoda bind the Supreme Personality of Godhead to a grinding mortar? She can't understand this. If you're in that Aishwarya mood, you cannot for a moment come into this Madhurya mood. How come we are becoming eligible to enter that Madhurya mood? Because we have the mercy of Mahaprabhu and we have the mercy of his greatest weapon, which is the Maha Mantra. This Maha Mantra is going to soften the heart. If we take serious shelter of this Maha Mantra, it will purify the heart of this Aishwarya conception and allow us to have this real loving relationship with Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan, like the Brijvasis. What's that? Tanam rupas charitadi sukirtana shmitya kramana rasanam asidyoja tishtem brajay tanuragi janugami kalam nayam akilam iti upadesharam. This is the 8th verse of Upadeshamrita. Tannama rupa charita. What is the instruction for the sadhaks? To always chant and remember Krishna's pastimes. And this Tishtem Brajay Tanuragi, always take shelter of the Brijvasis. Rupa Goswami, he's giving this. And it's only through the mercy of Mahaprabhu that he's able to give this. It's inconceivable, it's phenomenal that we have this gift of Rupa Goswami's teachings. Really, when we compare this to what was previously 600 or 700 years ago, Madhvacharya, Ramanuja, Prior to that, Sankaracharya. Prior to that, second Buddha, first Buddha. And then the Alvars of India, they had very prominent bhakti and devotion to Krishna, not devotion to Vrindavan. It wasn't the same. So it's so unique. And to understand that, we need to have Jaiva-Dharma. We need to take this Jaiva-Dharma very, very seriously. And then as a consequence, we will be gifted with the greater eligibility to enter into Sri Vrindavan. Because as I said yesterday, that in the 38th chapter, all the Astakalya Lila spoken by Sadashiva and Vrindadevi are spoken to Narad. All the 8 pastime timings of the day, from Nishanta Lila through till Ratri Lila, are all there very clearly, and all the different activities of the day. So the sadhak, when he becomes really enthusiastic, which is the ingredient for Raganuga, Krishna Bhakti Rasabhavitamati Kriyatam Yatita Labhyate Tatra Lolyam Apimulyam Ekalam Janma Koti Shukriti Labhyate. This mulyam, this greed, this is the ingredient of Raganuga Bhakti. Not fear, not this bhayam, not this fear. It's a whole transition of consciousness. I mean, you would think it's impossible to accomplish in one lifetime. Going from not even knowing who is God, in the Western case anyway, not even remotely hearing the name of Krishna until I was maybe 14 or 15 years old. Hadn't even heard the name of Krishna. Had no idea of demigods or anything. Just God, a great imposing figure of fear, was planted in the consciousness in the Western world. Big cathedrals and temples, so you're supposed to be afraid when you go in. And the priest shouting at you and so on, telling you you're all going to go to hell. So this is the world of not even Vaidhi, actually, not even any parameters of rules and regulations. These rules and regulations of Vaidhi are so wonderful. They are like the boundaries, and Dharma is very wonderful. And we need to know those boundaries first to have a proper social situation in this world before we can consider breaking out of them internally. We don't ever have to break out of that Dharma externally for any reason. We're breaking out of it internally. The dharmic wall, so to speak, the dharmic parameters will be externally there forever. They'll never leave. But internally, our practice of this rag marg should flourish with the ingredient of greed. So this is the huge distinction. This is what Mahaprabhu is giving. So in this achintya beda abeda, we always use the word achintya because it's inconceivable that we are the same as Krishna and yet different. It makes so much sense. We are the same as Krishna, yet we're different. We really should meditate on this deeply. It's very sublime. So Veda Abed Prakasham Sakalam Apihre. This is all one prameya. Next prameya, sadhanam. Sadhanam Shuddha Bhaktim. That's 2 prameyas. So there's 2 prameyas in the 3rd line. We've had the praman and 3 prameyas in the first line. We've had 3 prameyas in the second line. That's 6, 7, 8. So we're up to 8 prameyas so far. So the 9th prameya, Sadyam Tat Piritim. This is the 9th prameya. That love is the ingredient that we're looking to rise in the heart towards the object of affection, Sri Radhika's lotus feet. This is actually what Mahaprabhu has taught us. This is what my Gurudev has taught me. Every day of his life, he talked to try and focus our attention towards Sri Radhika. Sri Radhika is the greatest maidservant of Sri Krishna. She's bringing the most joy and happiness to Krishna. Krishna is in the forest with his beautiful cowherd friends who will give up their whole lives just for one drop of sweat to relieve Krishna's fatigue in any way. They love him so much, and yet Krishna, He sees a lake and he's thinking, oh, that looks like my beloved Radha's face. He hears the swan singing. He thinks, oh, is that Radhika's ankle bells? He's only thinking of Radhika. Even just before that, his parents, Yashoda and Nanda Baba, who are so attached to their son, and yet Krishna wants to leave them and go to the forest with the cowherd boys. But then he wants to leave the cowherd boys at midday and spend 5 hours with the gopis. So the gopis are those personalities who demonstrate affection to Krishna more than anyone else in this world. This is how Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has described. No one demonstrates attraction to Krishna more than the gopis of Vrindavan. This is the very height. And our path is to follow in the footsteps of the gopis. When we read Chaitanya Charitamrita, especially the Rai Ramananda Sangvad, in that Rai Ramananda Sangvad, it's quoting so many times that just follow in the wake of the gopis. If we follow the gopis tightly, and which gopi in particular? Shri Rupa Goswami and Lavanga Manjari, Sanatan Goswami, all of the Goswami, all of our Guru Vargya, they're all Manjaris. So we're following very, very closely them to get that same mood, to get that same bhav of attraction to Sri Radhika. This is very important. So sadhanam shuddha bhaktim, and then sadhyam tat pritim. Now it's saying that this instruction, upadeshati jnanam gaura chandra swayam saha. This is the instruction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is what Bilva Mangala was saying yesterday. This whole Dasmula is the condensed instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The essence of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is what we're getting. So then, Babaji discussed that Gauranga Dev has herein instructed 10 distinct tattvas. So he's saying it directly. These are the instructions of Mahaprabhu. So we have it very clearly. And then Brajanath has said he's listening carefully, but he has no questions at the moment, but he'll bring questions up later. Now he's requesting, this is where we got to yesterday, to hear the first verse of the Dashmula. And this is going to establish the praman, or the amnaya. This is what the first part will do. All of these 10 will be carefully unpacked and explained. So, Rasamanjari, you can chant that verse.
Swata siddho vedo hari daita veda prabhritita pramanam sat praptam pramiti vishayantana vidhan tatha pratyakshadi pramiti sahitam sadhyati naha na yuktis tarkakhya pravishyati tatha shakti rahita.
Thank you. So this is the Dasmula number 1. There's actually a document, if you're interested, on my website, which has all the 10 shlokas there and their principal meanings of all the shlokas for the Dasmula. So just to, actually this book has an amazing, it's almost like Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving us all these in seed forms and giving us an opportunity to unpack them more and more. We can unpack so many things from this, so many teachings from this. So this is the first Dasmula. The self-evident Vedas, which have been received in the Sampradaya through the Guru Parampara by recipients of Sri Hari's mercy, such as Brahmaji and others, are known as Amnaya Vakya. Yes, it's all coming from the mercy of Krishna. This is where it's descending. It's this Avaroha Panta. Everything is coming down. Nothing is trying to climb up. that Aroha Panta path is not the path of the Bhakta. It's Avaroha. Ava like avatar, we say. The 9 Prameya Tattvas are established by these Annaya Vakyas. Vakya means those teachings that are prominent, Vakyas. Like before we talked about the Mahavakyas. Rajanath was asking, Sankaracharya had manifested these Mahavakyas, these prominent teachings from the Vedas, but it was understood that all the Vedic teachings are Vakyas. So Annaya means all the Vedic teachings. So all the Vedic teachings are Vakyas. So we say Annaya Vakyas, prominent. With the help of other pramans that follow the guidance of these shastras, such as evidence obtained by direct sense perception, pratyaksha, reasoning that is only based on logic is always lame in the matter of evaluating inconceivable subject matters. Rupa Goswami has said that this path of achintya bhav has no space for logic or rationality. You can't rationalize it. It's not words you can juggle around. It's actually based on bhav, ultimately, because it's from bhav that prem will manifest. Shuddha sattva, visheshatma, prem suryavam samyabhat. Ruchibis chitam rishnu, shud ashu bhav uchyate. This is the definition of bhav. It's like a ray of prem. So our goal ultimately is prem. That's the sadhya. We've just discussed that tad piritim. That's the sadhya, is prem. So that will manifest by adhering carefully to the Amnaya Vakya, the Bhagavatam. So we have to really study these shastras to become wealthy in strength of shastra. This should be our objective. This doesn't require anything special, so to speak, except our effort. But the result can be so enhancing for our consciousnesses if we embrace these shastras with all our heart and soul. Reasoning that is only based on logic is always lame in the matter of evaluating inconceivable subject matters, since logic and argument have no access in the realm of the inconceivable. Inconceivable means it's inconceivable. It means you can't figure it out. A really materially intelligent person has a really hard time with this. I know some very intelligent people, and they're always thinking that their intelligence is going to win through in the end. But they're not thinking with this, like different parts of the consciousness is working. You know, they're not even conscious of this, but they're proud of their intelligence. And their intelligence has won them many material certificates, we can say, or, kudos in the past. So somehow there's an impression there that yes, with my material intelligence, I will be able to somehow or other figure it out. But all of that has to be submitted at the lotus feet of our Guru Parampara, and then completely left behind, and allow that childlike, inconceivable state, that achintya, I gave before this definition of rasa, that which is beyond imagination, heavy with wonder, and shining in the heart with pure goodness. Such is the state of rasa. There's one beautiful verse. This is the translation of it. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he quotes this in the 12th canto. It's very, very beautiful. Beyond imagination. This is like the inconceivable aspect, this achintya bhav. When we look at Lord Jagannath, if you think, oh yes, I know he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but Lord Jagannath's appearance is so inconceivable to begin with. These huge moon-like eyes, this huge, it's like nothing we've ever logically seen before. It's something completely illogical. But then if you just let yourself go and immerse in that beautiful form with a mood of astonishment and affection, then so much reciprocation will immediately come in the heart, immediately, no doubt, and give us great faith in that personality. Rajanath, is there any evidence within the Vedas to show that Brahmaji gave instructions through displic succession? So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's bringing this question in for us, because without the displic succession, you have nothing. If you meet some Baba on the sidewalk and he can do all sorts of magical tricks, but you ask him who is his guru and who is his guru and who is his guru, if he can't tell you the lineage, it means he's not guru. It means he's not an empowered master. An empowered master must have someone who has empowered him. And that person who empowered him, he must be empowered. And that person who has empowered him, he must have been empowered. That's the current. It's exactly like an electric current. An electric current has to have transformers all the way along to keep the current rolling. It has to have that to keep it moving. So if you meet some person and he can't tell you clearly, like for example, Jesus Christ, who was his guru? Maybe John the Baptist. Who was his guru? It's not spoken about. And who was his guru? It's not spoken about. Where was his sampradaya? It's not spoken about. Muhammad also, where is his sampradaya? It's not discussed, it's not spoken about. Apparently he heard the word from Gabriel, the archangel of God, but there's no connection. There's no clarity of personality. Therefore, in both of these religions, you don't have absolute authenticity from the very beginning because you can't trace the lineage. Yes. It becomes so, what we call in English, interpolated. That means it can be changed. I don't know how many editions of the Bible there are, but they just get changed and changed and changed. At the moment, of course you have Christians, but most of it is in a sentiment of goodness towards a personality. But if you want to find some explanations of philosophy, it's said that philosophy without religion is very dry, and religion without philosophy is sentimental or fanatical. If you just have religion and no philosophy, then it's fanatical. So we see many of these groups are very fanatical. They do fanatical things because they don't have sufficient philosophy. So in order to substantiate the philosophy, you have to have a sampradaya. You have to have a lineage. So this is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is demonstrating here with Brajanath. Brajanath is asking, what is that lineage? And then Babaji is saying, yes, there is. In the Mundaka Upanishad, it is stated,
Brahma Devanam Pratamaha Sambhabhava Vishwasya Kartata Bhuvanasya Gopta Sa Brahma Vidyam Sarva Vidya Pratishtham Atharvaya Jeshta Putraya Praha.
Very good. Brahmaji, who is the creator of the entire universe and the protector of the worlds, was the first Deva to appear. He gave complete instructions on Brahma Vidya, the basis of all knowledge, to his eldest son, Atharva. So this is the sequence going back to the earliest moment of creation. At the very beginning of Lord Brahma's life, he was instructing his son, Atharva. It is also stated further on in Mundaka Upanishad.
Yenaksharam Purusham Veda Satyam Provachatam Tattvato Brahma Vidyam.
Brahma Vidya is knowledge that reveals the true Swarup of Parabrahm, the indestructible Purushottam. So this knowledge is revealing the Swarup. If you don't have the knowledge, like I've just described these other Kali Yuga religions, or some Babaji who is pointing on the Brahma Jyoti or Moksha. You've got so many Babas in India. What is their lineage? What is their line? Where are they from? Who is their guru? Who is their guru, etc.? Without this clearly delineated, you haven't really, the practitioner can't feel full faith in the process. Brajanath, Do you have any evidence that the rishis who compiled the Smriti Shastras have given the correct explanation of the Vedas in them? It's a good question. Are you sure that these rishis have given the authentic description of the philosophy? Is it going to be distorted or fake? What is your praman for this? This is all in the first one, Amnaya Praha. What is the praman? Is it fake? Today's world, it's full of fakery. But here, we've got to have the hardcore evidence, the Amnaya. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur is arranging for that. Babaji, evidence for this is given in Srimad Bhagavatam 11:14, 3-4. The crest jewel of all Shastras.
कालेन नष्टा प्रलय वाणीयं वेद संहिता मायादौ ब्रह्मणे प्रोक्ता धर्मो यस्यां मद आत्मकः तेन प्रोक्ता स्वपुत्राय मनवे पूर्वजाय सा ततो भृगव आद्यो गृणन् सप्त ब्रह्म महर्षया.
Very good. Sri Brahma said, by the influence of time, the Vedas containing my instructions on Bhagavad Dharma were lost when the cosmic devastation occurred. At the beginning of the next Brahma Kalpa, at the time of creation, I again instructed Brahma in that same Veda Brahma. I again instructed Brahma in that same Veda. Brahma instructed his son Manu in the Vedic knowledge, and Manu in turn instructed the same science to the 7 Brahma Rishis headed by Bhrigu. It's just like in many of the chapters in Srimad Bhagavatam, it gives itself over to describing the different dynasties. We just were doing the 6th canto of the 5th chapter of the 6th canto, and all the dynasties of all the devas are described. Why? To give authenticity to the body of literature. Yes, we know who their father was, their grandfather, their great-grandfather, their great-great-grandfather, all the way back. It's all there, clearly delineated. It's not any sort of hodgepodge, stuck together idea just by one man's fertile imagination, which might be very attractive. It might seem to be very wonderful what one person is actually saying. But unless he's got the backing of the Amnaya, then it doesn't have the strength to make a solid platform for future generations to build on. There's some fault there. Rajanath, what is the necessity for a sampradaya? What a beautiful question. Why do we need a sampradaya? Babaji, most people in this world accept the shelter of Mayavad philosophy. What does Mayavad philosophy mean? It means I want. It means Vad is that person who propounds something, who proclaims something. And if they're proclaiming Maya, the illusory, deluding energy, I want something in this material world. All of this material world is temporary and Mayic in nature. And if you want something from here, you're a Mayavad. I've said many times in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he speaks constantly in his purports that he talks about the Mayavads all the time. And I was thinking so much when I was first reading, who are all these Mayavads? Are they groups of people sitting around somewhere? And then I realized he's talking about me. I am the Mayavad. I am the one who wants some pleasure from this material world. He's cutting to me. I am the Mayavad. So we have to consider this conception of Mayavad. So for a sampradaya, he's saying, most people in this world accept the shelter of Mayavad philosophy, and follow that inauspicious path which is devoid of bhakti. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is so strong. He's so clear. He's so cutting. It makes my heart sing when I read these absolute statements by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. There's no room for discussion here. He's not giving any opening for any discussion. He's saying exactly as it is. And because we're familiar with the philosophy, we can embrace it and fully accept it and feel great affection for him. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was such a grave personality. When I first took the little blue edition of our Jaiva-Dharma to my Gurudev, and it had a engraving of Bhaktivinoda Thakur on the cover. It was a blue edition. And I had like a frilly thing around it. And my Gurudev jumped. Why have you put this frame, this frilly frame around it, you know? Bhaktivinoda Thakur was such a grave man. And the way he said it to me was so strong and powerful. And then I explained to my Gurudev, I wanted this to look like a locket, like people wear lockets on their necks and they have some embroidery out of silver or gold around the locket. So my plan was, because this Jaiva-Dharma exudes creativity also, I wanted this locket to come out of the cover. And there's a way to do it, because you carve into the cover and you make it look like three-dimensional. So the printer agreed to do that, but he didn't actually do it very well. It kind of came out, I mean, Indian. He just wasn't doing the best he could. But he could have actually made it more of an impression into it. Embossed, we call it in the West. Yes. When you emboss it and bring it out like three-dimensional. So that's what I hoped to accomplish. And then Gurudev was very happy with that when I explained like that. But to begin with, what I'm sharing now is my Gurudev was so in love with Bhaktivinoda Thakur and his absolute gravity. Because all these conceptions we're reading through is cutting at our material attraction and feelings of security in this material world. They're cutting all these material dharmas to pieces. They're actually incinerating them. And at the same time, we have that verse, Klesh Agni, incinerating our sufferings. So by incinerating all our attachments, we're incinerating our sufferings. That's what sadhana bhakti is about. That's the description of sadhana bhakti. I'll read that again. Most people in this world accept the shelter of Mayavad philosophy and follow that inauspicious path which is devoid of bhakti. It's very hard to come to the point of bhakti, to accepting that you're not the master. We've come into this world because we wanted to be the master. We have this tremendous desire to be the enjoyer. We think our pleasure will be by being the controller and the enjoyer. We haven't realized the bliss and beauty of service yet. When we begin to realize a little bit of the beauty of seva, then everything transforms. So this is when bhakti begins to blossom. Consequently, if there were no separate sampradayas for those who practice Shuddha Bhakti, that is untainted by the faults of Mayavad, it would be very difficult to attain genuine satsanga. Therefore, it is stated in the Padma Purana,
Sampradaya vihina ye mantraste vipala mata Shri Brahma Rudra Sanaka Vaishnava Kshiti Pavana.
Vaishnava Acharyas in the four Sampradayas, namely Ramanuja Acharya and in the Sri Sampradaya, Madhavacharya in the Brahma Sampradaya, Vishnu Swami in the Rudra Sampradaya, and Nimbaditya in the Chatusnan Sampradaya, purify the whole universe. Diksha mantras not received from the Acharyas in one of these four Sampradayas will be fruitless, because they have no backup. They have no platform that is coming from millions and millions of years. There's no authenticity to it. We are serious practitioners seeking the truth. If it's the truth, then it has its origin in antiquity, in ancient time. That's where its origin will be, if it's the truth. The truth doesn't alter through time. The truth is one. So to map that path of the truth comes through the sampradayas, through the different personalities in the sampradayas, carrying the truth. And we give the opposite effect of that, like in Christianity, for example. There was one Messiah, and he had 12 followers, and they wrote their own commentaries on the teachings. But then there was no one else to really carry it through after that. This is 2,000 years ago. So what we're getting today is like 1800 years of just speculative interpretation of the previous carriers of the message. How can it be authentic? There's no talk, oh, it came from this master to this master to this master to this master, like that. This is why this Ritvic arrangement also is incorrect. Because if there's not going to be a line, if everything stops with Prabhupada, if there's nothing after Prabhupada, how can the truth of this persist for the next 10,000 years? How can it go in strongly? How can the current go through? If you're checking it with one person, one master, and saying, yes, he's the only way, this is just like the Christianity philosophy, that you stop with one, or Islam is the same. There must be a lineage. That's why the Bhagavatam, in so many places, especially like in the 12th canto also, it chalks out many, many kings and who they all were, and their son, and their sons, and their sons, and their sons, so on and so on and so on. This dynasty line. And if you look in the back of the 9th canto, there are so many genealogy maps of all the different personalities. You have the Suryavams, you have the Chandravams, the moon dynasty, the sun dynasty, etc., where Ram is coming, and you have the moon dynasty of Krishna, and you have these exalted dynasties. So this is very important to make an absolutely rock solid platform. It must be like that for a reasonably intelligent sadhak to put his faith in that. This book is not written for foolish people. If you are foolish, you'll become intelligent by the time you read it. It's written to elevate the consciousness to a place of high level discrimination. It's actually written to bring us back to Godhead. This is why this book is so valuable.
Of these four,
Diksha mantras not received from the acharyas in one of these four sampradayas will be fruitless. Of these four, the Brahma Sampradaya is the most ancient and has continued through the disciplic succession until the present day. These sampradayas adhere to the system of Guru Parampara, and they have brought the Vedanta and other supremely auspicious literatures unchanged from the most ancient times. And by the potency of the system of Parampara, there is not the slightest chance that they have made any change or eliminated any portion. This is why it's such a tragedy that many in that ISKCON group have supported the various changes in Prabhupada's words in his Bhagavad Gita, for example. There are so many changes there that are terrible, that they are not saying what the same words that Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada used. For example, at the end of the 8th chapter, the last paragraph, it's saying, this is just one example, it said you should seek higher association. So what have they written instead? One should seek association. They've taken out the word higher. What was the purpose of that? Prabhupada was being channeled, he was being dictated by great personalities to write that book in exactly the right language that would trigger the heart's movements of the conditioned souls. And yet some other person thought in their own greatness, oh, I'll make it better. Prabhupada used to say, this is a trait of you Americans in particular. You think you can make so many things better than the original. Well, you can't. You can't change the original. The original is gold. How can you change gold from what it... That's the standard. And by the potency of the system of Parampara, there is not the slightest chance that they have made any change or eliminated any portion. There is therefore no reason to doubt the literature that the Sampradaya has authorized. Sampradaya is an effective and indispensable arrangement, and for this reason, the Sat Sampradaya system is continuing amongst saints and sadhus from the most ancient times. So I think we'll stop there. And Tomorrow we will hear the acharyas in the sampradaya in order of their succession revealed. It must have the names of those people, because if he's just saying something but he's not going to give the proof of it, he's not going to give the parampara system, he's not going to give the names. Like every morning in our temple, we sing the whole Guru Parampara bhajan. We sing that whole beautiful Guru bhajan, glorifying all the gurus in our sampradaya. Sometimes we don't appreciate just how important that is to do. Because when it's not there, you don't have the truth. You're going to be cheated again. So Jaiva-Dharma ki jai, Sampradaya Dara ki jai, Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhavevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo.